Martin, you good? Or are you going to keep itching your eyeball?
Eyes itching. Yeah, I'm good. Like I got potato chip crumbs in.
You're a smart one, aren't you? There?
Jesus Christ. Like, it's what I get.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
That's what I get for not growing up ever.
Potato to a face. Never mind.
It's time for Bourbon with Friends, the bourbon podcast that never takes itself too seriously. Pull up a chair, grab a glass, and remember, a bourbon with friends can change the world. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bourbon with Friends. Myself, Adrian, and Martin are here to talk about whiskeys from around the world and how a bourbon with friends can change the world. How are you guys? How was your weekend?
Good. Did you forget the name of the show?
I sure did for a second. Yeah. I sure did. I was just on another podcast before this one started recording for my company. So it's been
traitor.
Oh,
ever revolving.
I was like, are you being serious right
now? Yeah. It's kind of my job.
He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, actually. He just got back from Austin, so that's
where I don't think I would have left.
No.
I bet that was fun.
No, weekend was good. Got to spend it with some friends. I went to a whiskey fest over in Lisle for Malloy. It was Malloy's Fine Spirits. Nice. They were put up, and I got to try some cool stuff. I was just mentioned to you guys backstage. I tried that Chattanooga, which was finished in Islay. It was very good. Tried some other companies that I had not had an opportunity to try. Tried some tequila because they forced me to. And they didn't really force me to. And I didn't actually try.
I was just saying, I bet it was good.
Well, I don't know. Whatever they bought, they said it was very good. So, but no, it was cool. Cool little whiskey fest. Got to meet some cool people, and that was my weekend. And then I ended up drinking beer last night. So there you go.
That's not bad. Sounds like a good weekend.
It was a good weekend. What about you, Adrian?
Oh, I just was working at the distillery, slinging cocktails. Yeah, it was good though. Had a great time.
Slinging them cocktails.
Yeah, it's like a family there, and there's a lot of regulars and live music and stuff like that. It's a great time.
Are you guys playing Christmas music nonstop?
No. No, we are not. Thank goodness.
I can do it, but honestly, I've been to the grocery store overdoes it. So they've been playing it for at least 3.5 weeks already. So I'm just burned out at this point. What's your guys' favorite Christmas song?
Oh gosh, don't ask me that. I played some Christmas music while I did a little bell ringing this morning.
You did some bell ringing?
I did some Salvation Army bell ringing this morning. That was fun. You guys should try it sometime.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm involved in enough charity work.
Okay. But
maybe take a flask with you. That might make it more fun.
Oh well, that would.
I mean, that's fair.
100%. I'd be bringing something with me. But no, I'm joking. Obviously, that's amazing. That you got an opportunity to do that and bring in some cheer.
I tried.
Where cheer
I tried.
So yeah, you could almost say that you infuse these people with joy in a lot of ways. I
100% did that. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly what I did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys see where I'm going with this? Do you guys see where I'm going with this?
That was so good, Martin.
That wasn't bad, but I'm kind of blonde, so you got to be a little bit more straightforward. So.
Oh, okay. So basically what I was saying, if I could break it down a little bit, I said that what she did is infuse joy into the hearts of men and women and children probably too. And the reason why I'm using that specific word, Brian, is because we have with us today from 5 Springs Infused Bourbon. We're going to be talking a little bit about some infused bourbon today. We have Lisa Sawyer Derman. Welcome to Bourbon with Friends. That's what it's called. There it is.
Yep. See? No, I'm not the only one who gets
it. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Hey guys, it's a pleasure. Yeah, I like that. I was listening a little bit, so I like that segue into the infused bourbon world. So
it was one of my better ones. It was
good.
Yeah, you've got blondes. You've got 3 blondes on the
That is true.
podcast, so you're outnumbered.
Yeah, I'm three blondes and a bald. So we're like a little, we're like a sitcom.
Well, maybe that's the name of the next show.
That should be.
Oh.
That could be the name of this show.
That could be the name of this episode. We just figured it out. It's gonna be a good one.
It's going down on the list.
Yep, write it down. Write it down. Write it down. All right, we got questions for you.
We do. But Lisa, could you start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the industry?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I've been into the industry for a long time. I know you guys are all in the industry as well, but I'm from Kentucky. I'm from a very small town in Kentucky, Albany, Kentucky. It's on the Dill Hollow and Lake Cumberland Lakes. It is still one of 3 dry counties in Kentucky.
Okay.
So grew up in a dry county. It's still a dry county. We still have our family farm there. One of these days, one of my goals is to make it like Lynchburg, Tennessee, and have a distillery there in a dry county, but we'll see if that can happen.
That'd be fun.
But I, grew up in Kentucky, so kind of bourbon and whiskey, even though I was in a dry county, that was just kind of always part of the culture. I went to school at University of Kentucky. I was actually a math major in college, but, did not want to be that technical and went to law school at George Washington in DC. And I just happened to get like my first summer job, my first summer internship as a paralegal, or not as a paralegal, as a law associate, summer associate. I started working with this guy from Alabama, T. Raymond Williams, and we were kind of like the 2 Southerners. I'm sure, Brian, you know him. Anyone in the
Look at his face.
T. Raymond, T. Ray. He was kind of like the alcohol beverage lawyer in the industry at the time, and just a really fun guy. He's still around. He's retired now, but I worked with him and we just hit it off because I knew how to whistle with I knew how to whistle with my fingers, and he thought that was incredible. And I started working with him, and I just loved the industry, and that was it. I stayed in the industry and was, kind of eventually went to in-house. I was general counsel at Absolute. I became COO of Stoli and kind of started to shift over to that business side. And then most recently, before I started this venture, I was running the North Division in Canada for Macallan. So I had a lot of experience in the industry, worn a lot of different hats, but really it all started because I was an alcohol beverage regulatory lawyer, and just had a passion for the industry as a whole.
How was
that's
that?
really cool.
How was the experience with Macallan?
Macallan was interesting. I actually a dear friend of mine who had hired me at Absolute was running the commercial division for Macallan when I went over there, and I was like, Scotch, I don't know. And it's like, I'd been with all these like kind of fun, sexy brands, like I was with Absolute, and, the offices were gorgeous and gallery paintings all over from the original artwork for the labels. And I was like, Scotch, it just seems, I don't know if that's like my wheelhouse. And it was such an incredible company. I don't know if you all know, but Macallan is actually owned by a charitable trust. So just the lifestyle and their visions and their mission, it was a great, great company to work with. And I also never liked Scotch, or at least so I thought, until I had Macallan Rare Cask and it's so much more similar to a bourbon than what I always thought of as a Scotch, because Macallan doesn't use peat. So it's, a really smooth, more bourbon type finish, and learned a lot. Also learned a lot about marketing in that position, which is one of the reasons why we kind of took the marketing and branding approach that we did with our brand, because I felt like there just wasn't something that was kind of more focused towards women or for a younger generation in the bourbon and whiskey category. And that's a little bit that was inspired from having worked at Macallan and, seeing how they were marketing and what they were doing from a luxury standpoint. But great company, great product.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm Brian and myself are big Scotch drinkers, so that's why I was just kind of curious, because I'm always curious about the other side of things, and it's cool that you found your way into liking that. And liking Scotch, because we're in the process of trying to convert a lot of people to Scotch.
One of them's on this show.
One of them's right there in the hat.
Have you had the rare cask yet? I think that's what you have to start her with.
We've tried a lot. I'm a member of the Scotch.
I've not had Macallan.
Yeah, I don't think she's had Macallan yet, but I've had stuff that's of a similar profile.
You have me interested, though. Now that you say it's a more bourbon-like whiskey, you have me interested because I
have the rare cast, Adrian. I'll send it to you.
I'm not a peaty.
It's a sherry finish on that. So
it's a sherry. They're all sherry finished, but no peat, which is great.
I'm very much an oaky forward type of person.
So talking a little bit about the spirit, I'm going to hold up the bottle just because I happen to have it right here, and all three of us got different versions / flavors of this. I have the honey sage. You don't have it, Brian. I have the honey sage. Adrian, which one did you have?
I ended up with vanilla maple, so that would mean that Brian should be getting the blood orange, if I'm not mistaken. Which I'm a little jelly, but yeah.
I'm waiting. It should be here any minute.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
He can hear. He can hear the elk hooves delivering it
on the roof. On the roof. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, just prancing across the top. So I guess just obviously being a proprietary blend, you want to kind of just talk about the different versions, the different flavors that you guys offer.
So we worked with a lot of different flavors. We tried a lot of different flavors. We tried a lot of different mash bills when we first created it. The three flavors we wound up with are the blood orange, the vanilla maple, and the honey sage. And I am drinking the vanilla maple myself right now. And I kind of fluctuate day by day on which one is my favorite. This summer, blood orange was top of the list because we were doing a lot of Aperol spritzes with the blood orange. But now that the weather's a little bit cooler, we're focusing on the espresso martini with the vanilla maple. So I've been drinking a lot of that recently.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, it's really, and as bourbon drinkers, I'm sure that you guys can appreciate that. And I'm very curious to hear what you all think of the flavors themselves. But the vanilla maple, it feels like we've been doing a lot of bourbon and whiskey festivals, especially in October in Kentucky, because there's so many. We are I feel like bourbon drinkers really like the vanilla maple because they feel like it really tastes like a bourbon, but just those natural bourbon flavors are enhanced.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, that gives us a little bit more clarity on what's going on. And I'm really interested. Once it comes in, I will just pull it straight from the bottle. Yeah, because I really want to try it. I'm really curious on this blood orange. I really like blood orange and other things, and as well as cocktails and mixers itself. So,
yeah. I just recently tried a blood orange cocktail. I just started making one at Edwin Co., and I had never tried it prior to that. So, having tried that, I'm interested in what Brian has to say about the blood orange expression.
Yeah. So, Lisa, I'm a little curious on your background now, right? You started in the industry as an attorney.
Yes.
And then started moving your way across the board, going to higher executive levels, now owning your own company. I know you lived in Kentucky or grew up in Kentucky in a dry county, but what drew you to this industry the most, and what gave you this vibrance to create an infused whiskey to build such an amazing company?
I was confused, in my 20s. Like I said, I was a math major. I was really like, and I think like the alcohol beverage regulatory, if you guys have spent any time, like trying to get a label approved, how detailed, so I kind of feel like, I was intrigued by that area of law because I didn't even know about the 21st Amendment and the fact that every single state has its own laws, et cetera. So it's like I always really liked that like nerdy aspect of it. But what happened for me, where the passion came from, is that, it's like I'm in a big corporate legal world. It's a global firm with, over 300 attorneys, et cetera. And it's all very boring, the work. And I just felt like from the first client that I worked with, which was actually Sam Cook from Sam Adams. Jim Cook from Sam Adams was our first client. He was just launching Boston Beer Company at the time, and I was working with him, as the junior person on the deals, and his story, and meeting so many entrepreneurs in the industry, people who are so passionate about different alcohol areas. And it felt like it wasn't just, even though it was like this big corporate world and there's so much regulations and the whole legal aspect of it, it really felt like it was made up of people who were entrepreneurs. And so I always like identified with everyone's story. And also I loved being able to see the products out in the market, like it was really fun as an attorney to be like, yeah, there's a brand I work with, there's Coors, there's Jack Daniels, there's Jim Beam. And, I did a lot of work for Constellation Brands at the time. So it's just, being able to see the products, being able to like interact with the products. And I just think consumer goods in general are so much more fun, from a legal standpoint, but then also the fact that there's just so many people who have started their own businesses and their own brands and have a real passion. When I first got started, everyone had a real passion for craft beer. So that's when that was the first wave of craft beer in 1990, 90s, the early 90s, the late 80s. I feel like it went down and then it came back. But, I was meeting someone every single day who just loved beer and wanted to make it better. And, we're brewing it in their back garage or, working with larger companies to make their own special batch. And that just always appealed to me.
Well, that kind of gave me some more insight than I was expecting, and I love it. But I also, I'm still a little curious. What gave you the draw to do this infusion comparison to a regular whiskey?
Yeah, well, I'm not a master distiller, so I think that was like right off the bat. It's like I really approached this from a love of bourbon, just from being in Kentucky. Having grown up with bourbon my entire life, bourbon and whiskeys, and then, evolving to scotch. So it started with that. And then I really was approaching it more from a marketing and branding standpoint. So it wasn't, and I knew like I wasn't going to be able to produce the best aged product, a 15-year, these cast finishes, that wasn't so much in my wheelhouse. But what I felt like I did see a white space in the area that felt authentic to me was having my adult children who are in their late 20s really starting to embrace bourbon and drinking bourbon cocktails. And so we started, playing around with it at home. It really was a situation where they were like, oh, my friends were all drinking paper planes down at the shore. And I was like, oh, what's a paper plane? They're like, Mom, it's like bourbon. Like, how do you not know what a paper plane is? Because I always drank my bourbon, neat or on a rock.
Right.
And so when I saw this generation, and then I was at a friend's house and I saw that they had like Jack Daniel's honey or something. And I was like, oh, like, why do you have Jack Daniel's honey? And they were like, oh, my daughter, Jessie, who was, 23 years old, she's drinking it. And I think at the time it was like in a paper plane. I was like, oh my God, like, when did this generation start really embracing these bourbon cocktails? I was like, I kind of missed that. And so that's where, I just started doing it with the kids, and we started making, they're not kids, they're in their late 20s, but we started making these cocktails and started serving them. We live at a lake house now and entertain a lot during the summer, and started serving them, and people really were embracing them. And we found that it was like really making bourbon approachable to all different types of people. So it was like, yes, the Gen Z and the millennials, but also women. A lot of my friends who were like, oh, I don't drink bourbon, I don't drink brown spirits. And we'd be like, oh, well, but try this, So it just looked like a marketing opportunity, in an area that could hopefully open up the world of bourbon to other people.
Well, it sounds like you killed it in the right direction, and you're starting to move and groove based off of the other interviews that you've done recently with people like Fred Minnick, Bourbon Lens, Bourbon Pursuit, and a few others out there. So good friends of ours.
Yeah, it was interesting for us. We're in New Jersey now. We launched in New Jersey. We were trying to decide whether or not we really wanted to tackle Kentucky. because we weren't sure, we weren't sure how the bourbon enthusiast or whiskey enthusiast would approach it. And I think that, first of all, it's such an incredible community. Everyone that I have met who has been, everyone has just been so like embracing and, and like wanting to bring people in the fold and sharing. And I can't tell you how many like small distillers that we've been talking to now, because we're still small batch. So we buy up the bourbon in small batches from various distillers. And, we've really, appreciated the Kentucky community and the bourbon community, listening to our story and embracing something that's, a little bit new and maybe like sacrilege to some people, but it's been great so far.
Like I said, you're doing a great job.
Thank
Everything that I can see in here, it's phenomenal. Once I have it, I'm still waiting.
Once your moose delivers it, your elk delivers it. You'll be able
if it's a moose, I'm not coming out from out front for a while.
He's just like, leave it at the end of the driveway.
But those things are mean.
But yeah, so I guess building off that, why don't I know Adrian and I have this. So again, I have the honey sage, and then you had the vanilla.
Mine vanilla maple.
The vanilla maple, so we can do a little tasting of it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I was about to say I'm getting notes of honey and sage, but I won't do that joke. I'll leave that alone. But it actually, like, it really comes through, which is really nice because I love sage.
Yeah, that was my son Jackson, and I'm like Brian, like I said, it's like the fact that you worked with sage before. It's not easy to work with. So I know when we first started doing this infusion, I think we, again, it was like over the stove in a pot. Yeah. And we had like 10 leaves of sage in it. And we were like, oh, this is perfect. It's great. Well, 3 days later, those 10 leaves, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. It's just so overpowering. Yeah. So that one actually was our hardest, the hardest flavor, because it just took us a long time to get this. We just wanted a touch of sage. We didn't want the sage to overwhelm it, but we wanted it to complement things like a ginger beer. So that's like we promote it with the ginger beer to kind of pick up a little bit more of the botanical ginger and the sage.
Right.
I bet that's really good. I might have to try that. Because I mean, you kind of talked about it earlier that some people would, the crazy purists out there would just be like, oh, like this is like, why would I want this? I was one of those people at one point where I wouldn't do anything outside of just whiskey neat. That's all. I'd never have anything, and I still primarily am, but I have been enjoying cocktails recently. So more in the summertime. Maybe not so much now, but at the same time, I actually wish I would have had this in the summer because I could have made some cool stuff with it. But yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, well, and it evolved from a summer. I mean, that's how it started when we were brewing cocktails over the summer. And for me, I'm like, I can't wait, for Derby. I'm like texting my brothers. I'm like, what time do we get to bring out the bourbon? It's the first Saturday in May every year. We're always, it's still cool out. We're always drinking bourbon. It's at every Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like that's it. We're drinking bourbon. And I wasn't really drinking bourbon in the summer. I mean, I was really drinking vodka and tequila, and I kind of started to migrate to that. And so, opening my eyes to a paper plane, which I think is great in the summer. And then, like I said, we were doing the bourbon Aperol spritz. It's like, you can drink brown spirits in the summer, and they really, I think, really enhance the cocktails because there's more to them. It's not, you're not just drinking vodka, with cranberry juice and a splash of club soda. You really are getting, different flavors and, the oak infusion, and just makes it more, I think, just more sophisticated. And I'm glad it actually opened it up for me as well, to be able to drink it in the summer and not be afraid of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figured that out when I started, this summer when my brother-in-law and I would be drinking whiskey at about like 11, and we're like, we're not making it throughout the day. We're passed out very early on. I'm like, let's switch to cocktails. Like, let's do something that's going to be a little easier, a little less aggressive at 11 o'clock in the morning by the pool. So we started doing that. So yeah, I'm gonna bring this over because he's a big fan of infused spirits as well. So I'm very curious what his opinion is too. But yeah, I'm loving it. Adrian, what are you thinking?
Well, I think sage, number one, I think sage is a great addition to a cocktail. So to infuse it in the whiskey, because I've made cocktails with whiskey with sage. So I think you probably did. Yeah, I can totally imagine it was probably a struggle at first to figure out like the balance of it, because sage is very powerful.
Yeah,
it's very, very powerful. But this vanilla maple is very, I mean, obviously I don't want to like, I'm horrible at giving notes, so I'm not going to go there. But
she's great at it. She just puts herself down.
I think this tastes really good. What I would say is I always look for, like, I like a very chewy mouthfeel. Like I'm always about mouthfeel. I do like a very oak forward type of flavor, which vanilla would lend to that, obviously. I think it's very good. My ear keeps falling out.
Your ear fell off?
My ear keeps falling out.
Oh, geez. Scared me for a second.
Yeah.
You may want to get checked on that.
I just got some new earpieces and they just keep falling out. So anyways,
maybe a disease.
It kind of leads me into a little bit of a question, because these guys know a lot about a lot of whiskeys, and I know some, but I don't know nearly as much. So I'm still kind of learning and trying to get a grip on all things whiskey. So I did read a little bit about this, and that it's a source from a little bit of a higher rye mash bill, which I love because it's kind of how I roll. And then that it comes out at 120 proof.
Yep.
And so what I would ask is, how did you find your way to the 70 proof that it is now, and still feeling it's in that bourbon world?
Right. That's a great question. I wish I could show you all of the sample bottles that we have, because honestly, we did everything from 60 to 90 proof,
Okay.
And yeah, and then also it's like you change the amount of maple syrup you add, that like it just all like so it's like, it was so, I mean, actually I probably enjoyed that part. Like, and my daughter, who's our director of marketing, is a computer science and data science major, and like the technical aspect of, okay, like 3 days at 90 proof, and then we would dilute it a little bit more, and it just 60 was definitely too weak. We really wanted it to be bourbon forward. We really wanted it to not be too sweet. So it's like, I always like to say, if you guys have heard me on anything else, it's like we're a bourbon with a splash of flavor. So, but we still wanted it to be approachable. And it just once we got the rye, which was stronger and more intense, we needed to bring the proof down. And that's where we wound up at the 70, just with the rye. Just all of a sudden, everything kind of felt like it came together. It was like
it still has it has a nice finish to it. It finishes a little bit higher, seemingly proof, than what it is what I'll say. It's very good. Have you thought about? I've made. We make a maple sour. That's a cocktail that we make. And it's a spin on a whiskey sour. And I really think that you could do a spin on a whiskey sour with this, and it would be incredible. But that's just I love
that. Every time we add like lemon, I don't like a whiskey sour. I'm trying to think of like what else the ingredients are, besides like a sour mix. But I do feel it. And it's interesting because we really tried to work with lemon, because that was one of our, like blackberry lemon. We were lemon.
Mm-hmm.
We were working with lemon a lot, and I love it. And I love lemon with bourbon. But we couldn't. it's like we needed real lemon, like we needed the natural lemon citrus. And so
right. Yeah, you could definitely make a cocktail with this.
Right. So it's like,
take a couple ounces of this, an ounce of lemon, maybe a little bit of simple syrup, a little bit if you need it a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
I don't think you really would. And give it a good shake and put it in a rocks glass. And I think it would be phenomenal.
You may be able to do even an egg wash or a egg wash. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
An egg wash with it, giving it just the yolks, and it'll give it that creaminess blend to it as well. Open up those flavor profiles a little bit more.
Or maybe even like a walnut bitter you could add. I don't know. Yeah. Just trying to throw some stuff out there.
Playing the with the orange bit, with the chocolate bitters, with the blood orange, which is really nice. Also with an old fashioned.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, we did. Well, Brian, when you get your blood orange, eventually you'll have lots of ideas. But we created blood orange with an old fashioned in mind. It actually makes a perfect Manhattan. Like you just need a little sweet vermouth, and it's like the Manhattan is great. But we've been getting tons of like DMs and posts from our website of people using the vanilla maple with an old fashioned, and it's just like, we were always just thinking blood orange, but it's like using the vanilla maple and adding the orange bitters also.
Yeah, you absolutely could. Yeah, absolutely, you could do that. I'd probably leave out like any additional simple syrup or sugars, but yeah, it would be great. Wonderful.
That sounds good. Well, maybe I'll have to try some of these. Well, it is that time. I swear to God, I'll try some of them. I just got into cocktails. I want at least 3 cocktails that I can go to. I have old fashioned as my go-to so far. But
which one were you using? Sorry, Martin. Which one were you using for the espresso martini? Which one of your? Were you using one?
We're using vanilla maple for this.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
sorry, Martin.
That sounds good too. But yeah, it definitely helps kind of open up people like myself who may not be into cocktails as much, but I'll try it. This is the point of the show where we ask a different kind of question. We talk a lot about whiskey, so we like to break it up a little bit. And I'm going to tell you that
it's fun. Don't be afraid.
We ask
I'm afraid this time.
I mean, a little bit afraid.
This question.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm a few drinks in now.
There we go.
So.
Okay, then we're good.
Cheers.
So basically, we ask a squirrel themed question. I'm going to tell you why we asked this question. So, the day before we took over as hosts of Bourbon with Friends, Adrian was taking a flight from South Africa, I think it was, and there was a squirrel that got loose on the plane. It was actually the captain's squirrel, and it got out of the cockpit and wreaked havoc on the cabin. None of this is true, by the way.
It gets more elaborate every show we do, Lisa. It gets more and more elaborate, and I love it. I think it's hilarious, but we don't even remember what the original story was at this point. Yeah. That's why we just keep making it up.
I just keep lying. So yeah, basically we ask a squirrel themed question. It's just kind of fun to break things up. So the one you get today is, and I actually think this is a pretty tame one, by the way. Which bottle out of the 3 infused that we all have would a squirrel choose? So which one out of the 3 do you think a squirrel would want to try the most?
And I'm going to add into this, what cocktail would they make out of it?
Okay.
For a squirrel.
Oh, I like that. I love it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm going to take blood orange out because I have like tons of squirrels in our backyard, and I don't see squirrels going for citrus. So
no, me neither.
I'm going out with that one. And I'm also going to take vanilla maple out, even though the maple, we could be like, okay, like the nuts not falling too far from the tree with the vanilla maple. But I'm going honey sage. Sage. I just think there's some kind of symmetry with the natural elements of a honey and a sage, and I can just picture the little on the sage, and that's the one I'm going with. And if they were, but I want to add some type of walnut bitters into
Okay.
that.
What I could do is there's a squirrel that always sits on my patio. I can leave it out in like a little bowl and see if he goes for it. It's either going to be him or the homeless lady that gets it. So somebody will drink it. I'm hoping it's a squirrel. And we'll see. We'll see if they really like it.
Let's see.
I'm more concerned that you were just trying to make a homeless lady drunk at this point.
She needs a lot, dude.
Still, come on.
Unless they're smacking this, she's fine.
Well, so Lisa, we had some fun with some interesting questions tonight. With everything that you've done so far, and your 3 blends or 3 infusions that you've done, do you have any upcoming releases that you want to talk about or can talk about?
Yes, thank you. We do not have any. Being a new startup with 3 flavors is as much as we can handle right now, but we're always taking feedback. Like I mentioned earlier, I would really like to do something with a berry. We haven't done that. Cool. So and blackberry happens to be the official, if it's not the official fruit, it's the official berry of Kentucky.
Nice.
So I love the idea of doing something with a blackberry. Don't tell any, I'm sure none of your listeners.
No, we're not.
But if we came out with another one, that's the one it would be. But we have our hands full with these 3, and it's really about.
So do you want to talk about where people can find those and how they can get their hands on them? That might be good.
Anybody could go to our website, so 5springsbourbon.com, and they pretty much ship nationally. We're tied in with Reserve Bar. So anybody can send nationally, and I think there's a few control states, of course, that are exempt. But and then we're in Kentucky and New Jersey, and we're launching in 10 new markets in 2025. So we'll be making our way. Of course, Colorado is on our list, and then the Mid-Atlantic. So you will see if you guys are in Indiana, that would be in 2025, and we're going to work our way west.
Okay. Nice. Do you have an IG handle then too?
Yes, our Instagram is at 5 Springs Bourbon, and we post a lot of recipes. We're again, we love the feedback, because for us it really is all about that cocktail culture and what we can do with it. And we've been getting a lot of recipes for food too. So it's like we got bread pudding. We're going to start posting those as well. But we got a bread pudding.
Okay.
Which I love. And I was like, I don't even know why I didn't think of that, but that's like perfect with the vanilla maple of bread pudding.
It would
recipe.
be.
So
I'd love that. And I want that.
Yeah. So that will probably be the first food recipe we'll post on our Instagram.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm already following. I wanted to make sure that you shared the handle so that I didn't mess it up.
No, I'm 99% sure we are following.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
We will be in about 30
I'm sure
seconds.
BWF is, and I'm pretty sure myself personally I am too. So there's one other question that we really love to ask, and that is, can you share your favorite whiskey memory? It could be from childhood. It could be at any point in your life, just whatever memory you have that is tied to whiskey that you would want to share.
Well, I can't say it's necessarily my favorite, but as soon as you said that, it just brought me back to a snowy winter night in Albany, Kentucky. And someone was passing around a bottle of Maker's Mark. And I remember it was the first time that I was ever drinking out of a bottle. And it was, it's like back then, it's like you went sledding. Our school would close for weeks if there was snow, because everybody got to school on a bus. So school would close for weeks. You would layer up with at least 2 or 3 pairs of jeans and, your whatever your normal winter coat is, because there's no skiing. And we would go, it's like that night we would go out. And I remember we were freezing because we were like wet from sledding down the Church of Nazarene's big hill. And someone had a bottle of Maker's Mark. And I was drinking it straight out of the bottle. And my dad picked me up in his El Camino, and I was like trying to get my boots on. So
that's awesome.
That's my first memory of ever having a whiskey.
That's pretty darn amazing.
Love that.
Those are my favorite stories. I could
know.
sit and talk about whiskey stories and whiskey memories like
Right.
all like the whole time.
I feel like bourbon, and I think tequila too, and Scotch. I loved hearing people like tell their stories about Scotch. And the first time it was usually like men and their sons and da 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 da. But it's like there's just like bourbon has so much history. So like for me, like even in Kentucky, just like the Derby or the first time I went to the track or the races or Kentucky footballs, and people would have a flask in their coat pocket. It's like there's just a ton of history and stories, and
there's a lot of love for me. I always feel like the stories always come from love, and that to me is that's, I don't know, that means the most to me.
It's all about bringing people together and
yes,
100%.
experiencing like just a warm social environment, and I do love that.
Awesome.
Well, Lisa, I can say that it's been a pleasure and an honor to talk to you. Unfortunately, I did not get your package during this recording. I can see it 3 blocks away from me right now on one of my cameras.
You have a camera 3 blocks away?
No, I have a camera on top of my roof.
Oh.
All right. Well, let's just plan to get back together in 3 months. I can let you guys know where we are and what new food recipes we have.
Yeah,
there we go. We'll have fun with it and just play around, and who knows the cocktails we can come up with a Bourbon with Friends cocktail out of all 3 of the spirits and send it out your way.
That'd be kind of cool.
Love it.
that would be.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. Good idea.
Great.
Sometimes blondes come up with good ideas.
Every once in a while. Well, again, thank
Lisa,
you
thank you so much.
You want to know what? I know blondes are fun. I do know that.
I agree.
3 blondes and
a bald.
And a bald man.
Thank you guys so much. Lisa, thank you so much for coming on. We really enjoyed everything that you provided us today, as well as all the experience and knowledge that comes from your background into creating this whiskey. Everybody out there, thank you for listening. And remember, a bourbon with friends can change the world, everybody. Have a great day or night. Cheers,
everybody.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Good night.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Bourbon with Friends. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a review to make it easier for others to find the show. You can also check us out on Instagram at BWF Podcast. Thanks for listening.